Great. Well, hello, everyone. Again, my name is Alex Zaragoza. I'm the Digital Engagement Specialist here at the Jacob Center for Neighborhood Innovation. My background is I was a Director of Content and Social Media for an SEO company. That's search engine optimization, if that, I don't know. So those are the people that are helping you get higher Google rankings. And so I worked with brands and businesses of all sizes to create digital strategies to help them find and connect and grow their presence online and improve their business. I thankfully left there because my soul was slowly rotting away and I wanted to actually do some good in the world, which is something that's very important to me. And so I've been here since January. Created a social media action plan and a digital strategy for the Jacob Center in order to help elevate the work that we're doing and empower it to be not only online, but help all the field work that's being done in order to improve the southeastern San Diego community. I also have a background in journalism, as Eric mentioned. I do arts, culture, and music writing in the city and beyond. So it's funny because it takes a lot of these things, like knowing a lot of different things to kind of help you really ramp up like social media as your specialty. So if you're born storytellers in some way or another, that's really what social media ends up coming down to. And then obviously there's like data and things like that you want to pay attention to. So yeah, it's this button here to move over. Yeah, it is. I got it. Woo! A big question that people ask: how can digital organizing complement and amplify other forms of community organizing and movement building, and vice versa? So digital strategy, which includes social media, obviously has transformed social movements and amplified those voices that may have previously gone unheard. It's a really amazing opportunity to take the idea of the town hall and make it the size of the planet. And that's something really special and exciting, especially for people like all of you who are doing work that really is aiming to help others and to inform others of important initiatives or important policy that's going to affect their day-to-day lives, health inequities, anything like that. So effective tools and strategies that we incorporate into social media is going to help you galvanize people into getting behind your movement, into helping them become ambassadors for your movement. So think of like in a simple note, like the hashtag, the Black Lives Matter movement or the Fight for 15 movement, how they've really just been churning and going every day to trying to, and sharing that hashtag in order to get people on board and to inform people of the work that they're doing. You're in effect wanting to do that same sort of work. So a big thing that I wanted to address is concerns. And concerns are why you guys are here, obviously, because a big concern that we found here and in the work that I've been doing for years, formulating a smart, well-rounded strategy. How do you even do that? Concerns that the digital strategy that you do will alienate people. That's another thing that we hear a lot of, that people worry about, that if we get too tech savvy, then you lose your audience because they may not know Facebook or Twitter or whatever. Bridging a digital divide is also part of that. So within your community, you may find that maybe certain technology isn't being used, and you want to kind of bridge that divide there so that they're finding those online sources and taking those sources and moving on to the field. So you're working with your field workers, you're working with your online people, your digital strategists to try to get everybody on board with the plan. And so it's hard when you feel like there maybe is not the resources there or the education there when it comes to certain platforms and technology. And also cost and bandwidth of putting together a strategy, I find, is a big concern for people. They think like, how much is this going to cost? Who are on our staff? We have 5 people on staff. Who's going to do this? It's a full-time job. Who's going to handle this? That's a big concern that I hear a lot of also. In the most basic sense, digital organizing kind of comes down to these 5 steps. It's oh no! Look at me being terrible with technology. So it's research and data collection, crafting a digital strategy and action plan, implementation and the creative strategy, evaluation and evolution, and then connecting. These are the 5 big steps here. So research and data collection. That's where you find out who is your audience. You want to identify which platforms and technology they are using already and how they're using it, what they're typically sharing, and what information is important to them, especially as it relates to your initiative. So when you understand who your audience is, then you can understand the technology they use, and then you find ways for yourself to use that same technology to connect with them. So it goes as far as, this typical age, sex, location, all those things. But then you also find out, through Twitter Insights, the sort of work that they do, the sort of thing that they're tweeting about. You get all these insights and data right there presented to you, and it's about taking that data and dissecting it. Okay, so if most of the people on Twitter that I follow are tweeting about politics, they all work in initiatives, they all work or some sort of policy making. How do I incorporate that into my strategy? So especially the third point, the finding what information is important to them, especially as it relates to your initiative, is kind of that golden spot for you guys, because that's where you begin to craft how you're going to connect with people and what your content is going to look like. That is how, that's how you start to build a social media strategy. It's the data, like Eric's shirt here implies. It's a bunch of data numbers, it's great. Is how you start to build that strategy. You want to know in depth who the people that you're trying to reach are. So it's not only just understanding who is already your audience that is following you, but who you want following you, who you want to connect to.
Mm-hmm. You could be able to share these slides out with us.
Yeah, right. Yeah, we could do that. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you're fine.
So Alex, on that front then too, so you recommend you're kind of going back and looking at your followers and what they're following and what they're tweeting and what they're posting and.
Right. So say most of you guys have Facebook pages for sure. So or all of you guys. So even as you have your followers, you could look at the wall of the people that are who's following you. You could see on the main news feed from who's liked your page and which page you've liked, what's being shared, what people are responding to, what are the things that they seem to be interested in. And so you can just gather that information. On Facebook Insights and Google Analytics, Facebook Insights and Twitter Analytics, there you get a really kind of broken down, this is their age range. These are your followers, male versus female. This is the type of work that they're doing. Go ahead.
Is there a cost for getting those analytics and insights?
Zero cost. That's the great thing about all this data information is all completely free. Facebook provides that to you. You just have to go to the Insights page of your Facebook page. Go ahead.
It seems like something I've noticed lately is a bunch of businesses are liking this page, and I think it's more their business outreach rather than actually liking.
Right.
How do you analyze that?
Well, that's something we could go through during the strategy and action plan section, because a lot of it is also ads and boosting. Yeah, and that's a big one, and that's a big one. So, right, so research and data collection isn't just Facebook, it's not just Twitter Analytics, it's not just the Google Analytics that you're finding on your website, but it's also just surveys and asking people, what is it that you care about? When people come to your town hall meetings or your meetings or whatever, asking them, what is the information that would really benefit you? What is it that you want to know about? Send out a MailChimp survey or a SurveyMonkey survey, just connecting, you don't have to let go of those old strategies. They still work. There's a lot of people out there that's what they prefer. They'd rather connect to somebody face to face and explain to them what it is that they would like to see shared. So making note of that, keeping a running document if you need to, where you incorporate the suggestions that you're getting from people in person.
When you say data, it seems like you're bouncing back and forth between anecdotal things you're hearing and actual numbers and counts of things.
Well, it's a little bit of both, because data is obviously the hard numbers, the the people are, the location, the age range, the gender, the sort of things that they're sharing or liking, or, you know, as you see in a post, like if you have those numbers of how many people are liking, sharing, retweeting, whatever a post, that's a piece of data. But from there, you kind of almost do a sociological study, if you can't, if, you know, so it's like if this is what they're responding to, then this is a content that's important to them. So that then informs your content, and that's part of the data that you're collecting. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had a quick question. So for NCPC, for our Facebook Insights, I will get, you know, notifications if my post, let's say it has 5 to 10 likes or something, but then I'll say it had 40 views. And I just want to confirm, does that mean that, and I've always, I wasn't 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure this is what it means by when I asked, does that mean 40 other people viewed it from like liking something that was connected to ours? Because those 40 likes are not shown on our page. It just shows, let's say like 8 likes, but then I'll say, you've been notified your post has been seen 40 times.
Right.
So that means 40 people have viewed it, but they just didn't like it. Right?
Yes.
And how did they just viewed it on our page, or does it also include, because I know on Facebook it does this, it's kind of creepy, but it does it.
Yeah.
It's that if you're both friends with
Right. So on the
a
news
page
feed.
that they could have just viewed it from the news, like if San Marcos Coalition liked mine and somebody else that doesn't like my page but likes theirs sees mine.
Absolutely, yeah.
That's what it means, right?
Yeah, that algorithm is really creepy when you start like dissecting. You're like, so like I have no idea who this person is, but a friend from high school liked their photo, and now here I am looking at their Barcelona trip from 2009. Why am I here? Why am I looking at this total stranger's photos of their baby? I'm a creep. Yeah, so it totally does it. So yeah, the impressions are.
Change that? Can you put it on your settings so you don't get the random ones coming in?
You have to choose individually. So if it's, you have to go in and on your notifications, like on the actual post, there's like the little arrow, drop down arrow, and you could say unfollow this person or hide all from this person or this company or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's
And the
Yeah.
views, are the views unique views, or if I go to the page 40 times, I get 40
It's
views?
unique views usually, yeah. Because so it's counting everybody that's viewed. You also get counts of the people that have clicked on the thing. So they might not have liked, but they clicked and they read. So these are all important things to factor in your data in the data collection, because it's not just about the likes and the comments, because otherwise we'd be like, man, only 2 people like that, or like, you know, it's kind of a bummer sometimes. So that's when you start incorporating calls to action into the content that you're writing for those posts. So, you know, yeah, go ahead.
We'd like your opinion. To moderate or not to moderate when it comes to these Facebook pages where you're actually filtering what it comes to?
Right. I'm a big proponent. You know, it's you know, I come from a journalism background, so if you have something bad to say, that's fine. You could say that, and I think it's important to let people have the open discourse there and not, you know, just delete it because it's not positive. But I think that presents an opportunity for you as your initiative to respond, to let them to respond to those people, because as soon as you respond, more times than not, they'll back off, or they'll say like, oh, I didn't see it that way or something. It's a chance to respond in a way that that will be informing them of maybe what their concerns are.
So it might be an opportunity for dialogue that other viewers are going to get to see.
Got to get to
that
see.
They wouldn't otherwise see if I just clicked don't.
Exactly. And then that is an opportunity there. Like if you see that this is something that's a concern raising, that's like, okay, maybe we should write a blog post about that and share. You can address the fact that people are concerned about something, and then you can write a blog post or a Facebook post or whatever, informing people like, we understand your concerns. These are the things that we're doing to like answer your questions or counteract that or whatever. It's like, I think that open discourse, especially in the field that the field that this is and the work that you guys are doing, is important, because yeah, that if there's a lack of transparency, people just do not respond well to that. If they feel like they're being lied to or stifled in any way, people just don't respond to that, you know.
Total and propaganda.
Yeah. Okay, you first, sorry.
One of the things I noticed on that is we've had letters to editor and articles about work we've done put in like the UT or something.
Uh-huh.
And there have been a couple people that have really slammed what we did. Well, and when they did that, then there was tons of people that we never even knew. And we they have no contact.
Mhm.
They came in and supported our issues and supported our
Mhm.
position and really called in the task. So it got more people engaged.
Right.
Than we even were, or had interaction with before.
Right, and that comes up again in the connecting part towards the end. Those comments and stuff is an opportunity to connect with somebody and find brand ambassadors for the work you're doing. You in the back, go ahead.
Because a lot of all of the prevention providers work with youth, is there a way to facilitate and encourage open discourse while censoring certain types of language?
Right, I mean, I think when you're asking for discourse, being upfront and saying, like, this is a spot, this is a forum for open discourse, but, you know, certain language won't be tolerated, you'll be removed if it's anything racist, or if anything, like, no, that, if you feel the need to, like, make that clear, I think that's important, because you want people to be open and be able to feel safe discussing something, but also if some people are there just because they just want to burn the house down, you know, which sometimes happens. Yeah, I mean, by all means, you could say, like, you know, that's not really conducive to the conversation, so we're going to have to ask you to. Oh, on Facebook? There's not a control. You just have to have somebody monitoring it, and then, yeah, and then.
And you have to be bold enough to say it, too, to type it and click.
Right, and you could respond if somebody is being very negative, very harsh. It's like, I'd say respond to them. I think it's always important to respond, letting them know that language won't be tolerated. I usually.
On your Facebook page, hey, that's not okay. Or,
Yeah, you know, and there's a way that's a professional way to word that, you know, to tell people, you know, that while we accept any criticisms or constructive criticism, that language won't be tolerated. So please, and I'd say this, you could say in private message or on there. I think even actually on this thing is better, so that other people read it and they're like, oh, okay, you know, let them know. But we'd love to continue to talk to you, but we just need you to kind of follow these guidelines so that it doesn't turn into some completely other issue, you know. Go ahead. Oh, sorry, I'll be right there with you.
This is kind of the same issue, I guess, but I'm just thinking from my own use of content on the internet, that comment sections in Facebook environments and online newspapers and things like that, people who just want to be trolls can figure out how to avoid violating the actual terms of use. Specifically, they're not using a swear word or something, but clearly, as you said, they're there to burn down the house, and then they'll drag a conversation down into the gutter immediately, and then people who want to have thoughtful responses and disagree respectfully,
right,
they just all go away too.
Right, I think there's a chance, like the first time, like, you know, let them know that, give them almost the warning. And then if it kind of proceeds, then you could block them, then you could remove them from the conversation, you know. If it proceeds, and then you could send them a private message and let them know that you got an opportunity, we want to hear what you have to say, but if you're not here to actually provide some insight that's beneficial to everybody, then we can't have you here, you know. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Go ahead.
In situations where there's no offensive language or anything like that, I know we might put something out, any organization might put something out that might be deemed controversial, and a lot of people there's an open dialogue. Is it more favorable that we get involved in the dialogue, or we allow community members, authentic voices, to sort of have that discussion without us, even if it's on our page?
Right, and I think there's you have to kind of read, you go through it. There's certain things that if they're starting to say things as they're communicating things that are completely off, that's definitely not something we do. That's a good opportunity to jump in if they're like say Planned Parenthood. Like people are talking and then here comes people saying like they're doing this and this and that. Planned Parenthood can then come in just to clarify, here's information that from our website, this is what is actually going on. No, we don't, I don't know, do whatever we do or something, you know, you're saying. So it's like letting people interact and letting them talk, but when you find the need that the information that's being shared there is not accurate, then that's a good opportunity for you to come in and just inform people so that they're not continuing to spread these weird stories or whatever you're doing. Because, you know, people will come up with stuff out of nowhere, right? It's like, oh, I heard that they do this. And you're like, where did that come from? Like, it's insane. So, yeah, I think that's a good opportunity to do that then. Go ahead in the back.
What about when like for our youth group and their Facebook page, there's been twice because we have a lot of young girls in our group, teenage girls, and twice trolls came on and just one to start, make a little comment about, oh, cute young things in their bodies. And a whole bunch more will chime
Yeah,
in.
being a woman sucks in general, especially online. I have been called the C word online. I have been called a fat bitch online by people, commenters, for stories I've written. Things that have nothing to do with anything, but people making really, really offensive sexual remarks. And it's the sad, sad state of the world that we live in, that people feel that that's okay to talk to a young woman or any woman that way.
So do you leave those comments up?
No, those are not okay. I think, well, that's just me personally as a feminist too. Like there's conducive information and there's not agreeing, because not everyone's going to like the work you do. Some people are going to disagree with you, and that's fine, and that's an opportunity there for discourse. But if someone's going in there and saying really offensive things to young women who are working there, like, get out of here, pervert. Like, who are you? This is not the point of this. I don't know. I have a zero tolerance for. So, but that's up to you too, however you guys feel, but that's just like a personal choice that I make in the work that I do. And I think most initiatives that I've worked with, or people that I've worked with, feel the same way, because the harassment is very real, especially online for women.
I'm going to add a point here. It's room for opportunity here. Is you talked about what does the community say, what are they interested in?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this group here is really good at researching data and data collection, and every 2 years, every 2 years, you know what I'm talking about, Laura Stanley, we have a community survey.
Mm-hmm.
Now granted, it is a set number of questions for every initiative that works meth, prescription drug, BUDI, marijuana, and they ask questions. These people will go out, we'll all go out, we ask questions to the community, and they tell us, are you in support of social host ordinances that fine individuals for hosting a party where underage drinking is taking place? Or do you support, whatever the initiative is working on? And then we get some really good data that comes back. That could be an opportunity to use the results from those surveys as things, here's what the community, based on surveys received, respondents said.
Right.
That could be a good push for research and data just for all of our projects, because everyone's going to be engaged in this in like 2 months.
Right, and that informs the strategy that you take online and the content that you choose. Because if you're finding that this is something people are passionate about, and as you're speaking even here right now, like things that you guys are mentioning, like if that's something that's really important to you, then you could factor that into the content that you're putting out there. And I think if you're doing that, then you're able to continue the conversation and gather more data from people commenting and offering their insights. So data is great. Research, we love it. It's amazing. So like here at the Jacobs Center, as I was doing the research and data collection, not just online, but also working with our former community organizer who was, knocking on doors. She's at all the meetings. She's at City Hall. She's at the Myrtle Cole's office, and she was working on quite a few of our staff do that more. I'm like just the geek at the computer. They came to me and they explained to me like what are some of the things people are saying about our organization, and from there we're able to like gather that research and then inform that, okay, so these are things that we need to address somehow. How are we going to address those? And not only just that, but we found, okay, so in all that and in discussing with people and seeing how they're reacting or who's interacting with us online, we found that our community members, people on the street, whatever, they're connecting with us on Facebook. They're not on Twitter necessarily. So because of that, it's like, okay, a community member, what are the things that's important to them? So through Facebook, that's where we share, information on our events and not only our events, but community events, where we're showing news stories that might affect them, where we're showing we create storytelling campaigns. A big push that I do is storytelling campaigns that kind of introduce people to this neighborhood that we're really working to help revitalize. These are the restaurants that you can try. This is a person who we have on Food for Less back there. We had the Community Faces murals. And the murals were created about 13, 14 years ago, and they were portraits of key members of the community doing important volunteer work and whatnot. So those murals are coming down, and we have a new project that's working with the Aja Project, where youth are creating murals with their faces, and those are going up to replace those. In doing that, we realized, in talking to the students and stuff, we realized that one of the women on the original mural, her great-granddaughter is replacing her. That's a beautiful, that's just a nice connector there. So we hired a film crew, because luckily we had the budget for it this time around. But sometimes I just, with my iPhone, I'm making a video if I can do it. So we hired a film crew to put that story out there, so that people in the community are hearing about others that are like them, other people in their community, and just a nice story. Maybe it has no value, but I think there is a value there, and feeling civic pride and feeling a connection to something that you might that will resonate with you on an emotional level, because it's your community, but also just because you're a human being, you know. So we do that stuff like that. We do job postings, you know, calls to action to get them to motivate them to come to a town hall. What are they going to gain here? What are they going to help us with, and how we're going to help them. Instagram, I take a more artful approach, obviously, because it's more photography driven. You know, showing people neighborhood public art, or creating little small videos on Instagram, like where it's somebody just in the community saying something that they love about living here. Just those like nice. It's a good mix to have something that's nice and heartfelt, as well as like, here's a flyer for this community event. You want to have like a nice, well-rounded strategy. Twitter is where, you know, as you guys I'm sure you've found, that's where you're going to connect with thought leaders, with the press, with organizations like your own or other initiatives and organizations all across the world. So that's an opportunity there to engage with them during events. So, you know, when people are live tweeting at events, like we go to the Rise San Diego luncheons every month, and everyone's there gathered to talk about a certain topic, and we're there and we're tweeting, we're like giving our opinion, we're responding to people, because then you're connecting. And you could do that at events, and you could just do that as you go through the news feed, so that you're connecting with people and you're opening a conversation with others. And that then hopefully builds a brand ambassador and somebody that shares your tweets. So we do that. We spread information there that's going to help spread our mission to bigger audiences. So it's pretty similar, but there's a variation there, because some of it overlaps. Like those short videos that we put on Instagram, they're great. Put them on Twitter and put them on Facebook as well. It's not like you have to have a different thing, but different content for each one. There can be some overlap, but it's just tweaking by understanding the audience, by doing the data collection to understand the audiences in each platform that you want to use. So yeah.
And Alex, you could set your different social media outlets to all combine, like you're saying, like if you put something on Twitter, it could go on Facebook.
Oh yeah. Okay. Well, and then the thing obviously is like Twitter has a character limit, so you have to a lot of times super edit. I'm like, how do I edit without sounding like a teenager, like one person, like, you know, using numbers and like. I try to avoid that, because this is a professional organization, and we don't want to sound like on fleek or whatever teenagers are saying nowadays. But yeah, so there's a lot of cross-sharing there. So to kind of recap the data part, the research and the data, it's one of the most powerful tools that you have, and it's going to set the foundation for the strategy that you put together. It will empower your action plan, because it's going to inform the steps you take for each platform that you want to use. Data can strengthen your work and increase your impact, because you're going to know who you're talking to and how you're going to talk to them. So there's one initiative, as an example, they're called the Polaris Project. And they use these programs, they use Salesforce and Palantir they use it to provide victims of sexual abuse and human trafficking resources, so that they can find the resource, and they could find a nearby shelter, a nearby police station, anything that would help them kind of get out of their situation, counseling, organizations or nonprofits that could take them in and provide them any help. So they created a hub where people could go to their website and find that information, and then use it to escape whatever they're going through. I don't know if you guys saw this on Facebook. During the Paris attacks, Facebook had an opportunity for people to check in as safe. So during really serious issues of safety and safety, we had it at during the Texas floods as well. So Facebook has this new app thing where you click in, I'm safe, I'm okay, and then if you're in the middle of an attack like that, God forbid, but if you're in the middle of a really life-threatening situation, but you need to let your family know you're safe. I mean, you can't call everybody, but Facebook enabled an app so that you can check in and people know that you're okay. So there's these things available to you that you can use, and it's finding ways to incorporate that into your own strategy as well. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's also very important is in those types of emergency situations, the phone systems can be
down.
quickly overwhelmed, and
Oh,
they're
yeah.
needed for the emergency services to utilize that. So
Exactly.
takes that load off of that.
Right, and I mean, when you're just fighting for your life in any situation, and if there's a way that you could just quickly let somebody know that you're okay, you're fine, that saves you the time of trying to figure out what you're going to do, but also calling your parent or your sister or your husband or your wife. So yeah, these are great apps that you can use.
I did see that, and my thought was because we're doing alcohol and drug use, especially for youth. I mean, a way to check in and say, "I'm sober, Mom."
Mm-hmm.
I didn't use drugs today, Mom, kind of thing. It's just it doesn't drill down to things or is it really for some crisis?
No, I mean, and I'm not sure if Facebook has rolled out an opportunity for other initiatives to incorporate that into their own work. I'd have to do some research and check on that. But I mean, there's an app that can be developed, or there's something you could do on your website to have people do those check-ins. Because yeah, especially I made it home safe. I didn't drive drunk home, or didn't drive home drunk. Those are kind of nice things to help kind of build awareness of what you do and what your initiative and your mission and your goals, So yeah, when you understand who your audience is, you could find ways to help them. So next is strategizing and creating an action plan. So you've done your data, you know who you're talking to, who you're trying to connect with. Then you want to understand what the goal of your campaign is. And of course you mainly know that. So if you're working for Booty, or Buddy, Booty, I don't know.
Booty works.
Yeah. So it's okay, you binge and underage drinking. That's who we want to connect. That's what we're trying to, that's our goal and our mission there, to counteract that. So you have that in place. Okay, this is what we do. This is the initiative that we're doing. So then you could create an action plan that guides a team in its efforts and keeps the campaign moving. So in doing that, you're setting weekly or monthly goals. Okay, this is a amount of posts that we have. You could build a social media schedule, because I know a big thing is that, do I have the time to just every day do whatever? No, but there's social media management systems that you can use to plan your entire week or entire month of posts, so that you can see it's all done for you, and then you could spend your time monitoring and shifting as you're going. So setting a budget for social media ads and boosts, that's part of your action plan. Planning which events to cover or to create a social media campaign around. So if there's a special event that you're holding or that somebody else is holding that you see, you identify an opportunity there to help promote the work that you're doing, factoring that in. Okay, that's one of our goals for this month. We're going to do that, and this is a campaign we're going to roll around it. So as an example of that, I'm working with an organization that is here in the building, but they're not part of the Jacobs Center. And their work is with health inequity, especially when it comes to heart health. And here in Southeastern San Diego, we have very high heart attack rates. A lot of it is as a result of health inequities within the Black and Latino community. So I'm working with them to create visuals that provide information on the real statistics, this is how many heart attacks we get a week just in this neighborhood. And this is data that they collected. So when you put that into a a compelling image with these numbers. And you've seen them online, you know, those really cool images, and they have the facts and the figures, and they're laid out really nicely. And then that's an opportunity to inform people of something. This is a very real fact. Here's something you could do about it. Come to this event. Learn more. And come to this event to find out what you can do to help improve your health. So, and also as part of that, I'm working with them to create a series of pop-up events where they can encourage people to have a healthier lifestyle. So one idea that I had for them was here just at the trolley stop. It's the second busiest trolley station in the entire county, the first being obviously San Ysidro. So if health is a very serious issue, and if you guys try to eat lunch around here like every day, it's just like fast food nation, you know what I mean? So it's hard to stay healthy in this neighborhood when all you have available to you is McDonald's and Jack in the Box and stuff. So what I suggested as part of their work is to set up a stand that works with local farms, which we have many of, to help so that people in the morning, really early in the morning, they could come, they could build a salad from local farms and take it to work with them for lunch. So we provide a box, a biodegradable box, a fork and a spoon or a knife or whatever, and they could quickly build a salad with what they like and from locally sourced farm greenery, and then they could take it to work with them. And as they're doing that, we encourage them, hey, just think about this, like do this one more time this week, and it's really easy. We could give you some extra, whatever you can do, like one more salad a week that you pack for yourself the night before, and that's going to help make a difference in your heart health. You know, so creating these like pop-up events that are surrounding your campaign, so that you're doing, that's the field work that you're doing, and then online providing that information to people of why it's important that they take care of themselves, because I think the number was like 10 heart attacks a week in this neighborhood. It was something obscene and not okay. It's very upsetting to think about that, and a lot of it is beyond their control when what's available to them is not the healthiest. Where you go to a more affluent neighborhood, for example, you'll find lots of organic and healthy foods and the Trader Joe's and whatnot to like help you maintain. So that says a lot about, you know, there's inequities there stemming from race, from class, from all those super fun stuff.
Talk about an action plan. Could you then recommend to them maybe you have Heart Wellness Wednesday, and every Wednesday?
Exactly. So in creating your action plan is where you start to think of creative things that you can do, things that also is just providing information that they need. If there's you have flyers, you have events, but it's also creating those campaigns that can help inform people on what they're doing, and then pushing them to the trigger, which is getting them to do a real world action, not just online action. So let's see what else we have here. Ooh. So a big thing, and I think I really want to stress this, is stick to the technology your audience knows, and then learn the technology and tools yourself. So it's like the teach a man to fish kind of, or should give him a pole. I don't know. Sorry, that saying. So you know, if you can't walk into a room, like if I came in here and was like, hey guys, you really should be using Snapchat for what you're doing, and you should really be using this, like, TikTok-y, whatever, digital platform, this and that, you're just like, awesome, cool. Like, slowly back out of the room. Like, because it's overwhelming, right? Like, I know people will come to me and they're like, are you using this? And it's like, well, it doesn't make sense for the work that I do to use it. So technology and social media is here to empower your work. It's not here to take over your work. You're doing the work that you're doing, and you do it well. So it's just incorporating these other technologies to help empower that work, to take it to the next level. So if you find that you're here, example, here in the Diamond neighborhoods, the community is mostly using Facebook. They're not really using Twitter unless they're part of a nonprofit organization here. The youth is using Instagram mostly and like Snapchat. They're not really, like Facebook, they have like Facebook pages, but like if you have any teenagers in your life, they're just like, Facebook is so lame. So at least that's what my nieces tell me. So it's taking that technology, understanding it from the research and the data that you did, and saying, okay, now I need to learn this technology So learn how to use it in and out, from the basics to, okay, what is a hashtag? Why am I going to use a hashtag? What campaign and like what hashtags am I going to start using for my specific campaigns? Understanding like the purpose of an ad or a boost for, you know, putting to amplify a post that you're writing. Understanding that, okay, like, yeah, maybe kids are using Snapchat, but it doesn't really work for us. Like what we're going to connect with the most people is through Facebook. So let's just continue using Facebook, but find ways to empower that Facebook presence. Yeah, so it's a lot easier to do that. And another thing that we found here as well, and other with other organizations that we've talked to and learned from, and we've had some shared learning exchanges, text campaigns. A lot of people don't necessarily check social media, but they'll receive a text and they'll be like, oh, a text campaign telling them, hey, today's the day to vote. Here are five voting stations that in your neighborhood. Or go to this website to find your nearest voting station, and continuing to send those texts to inform people of what's happening. And they're like, oh, okay, so it's a text message. They're reminded constantly to take the next step in their action.
Let's include the hashtag.
Yeah, well, with a text, it doesn't really matter as much, but like on Twitter and stuff, and if you're building a campaign, you want to have that branding side of it, which is like the hashtag part of it. I thought.
Two things, I mean, like, once upon a time there was email, and email turned into the quaint little thing my parents used to do things. And Facebook seems to be going that direction too, but it's almost more adults than it is youngsters. And then you talk about Snapchat. And then how do you measure this text campaign thing?
Well, the thing is, when you use apps that have the text campaigns, because unless you have the resources to build it yourself, they provide the analytics for you.
So a hashtag would, in a text.
Not in a text. In a text, hashtags really are only through social media. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I think Snapchat too, but I'm not sure about that.
Could you promote the hashtag though, even in the text, so to drive?
Yeah, you tell them like, please share a photo, share your experience or whatever. Use hashtag vote today or something. You could use it in terms of the messaging, but on the actual text, the hashtag won't connect them to the other people. No, not on the text. No.
But that could be an ask.
Yeah, please share on using hashtag, whatever you use there. Using that technology, understanding the technology that's going to help you reach. A big thing we have an issue with is that a lot of people in our community do use cricket phones. So cricket phones means your phone number changes every time you get a new phone. And so we're like, okay, we've collected all these numbers, and now maybe half of them are no longer in use.
The Google Voice, promote that, that'll fix that.
Well, there you go, yeah. And but then you run into the issue of like trying to teach people to use a technology that they're not used to. I think most of the time people just don't want to deal with it, the learning curve. So it's like working within the means that they're there instead of trying to teach them something different. It'll just net faster and better results, we find, in the research that we've done. But it works, right? Yeah, absolutely. So, and as you're creating your strategy and your action plan for social media and all your other digital platforms, which includes your blog, your email, your any like MailChimp type stuff that you're sending out, you should cover all digital and on-the-ground goals and encompass all of it into your communication efforts. So like just posting flyers every day is really boring. No one cares, right? At some point, people are just going to be like, ugh, like they just stop looking, they stop clicking, and because of that creepy Facebook algorithm, the less people are like paying attention to what you're doing, the less it starts showing up on their news feeds. So it's like constantly like wanting to engage them, making sure that they're if they're not clicking like or commenting, that they're at least opening up what you're sharing. That because then it just won't show up in the newsfeed. They're finding if people are not responding at all, they just won't do it. So taking that into account, creating a content strategy that is engaging, that it not only just shows flyers, or this is what's happening this week, or this is whatever. Also getting creative and having fun stuff that you do. So example is like those campaigns where, storytelling campaigns, going out and taking a really nice photo and being like, look at this beautiful sunset today, or whatever. People love sunset photos in San Diego. Have you noticed that? It's kind of funny. So yeah, so it's about creating a hub that becomes a space of shared learning and information exchange. Turning your entire social media presence into a place where they're not only just coming to find out about your initiative, but things related to your initiative. So if you do alcohol, like underage drinking, so it's not just about this is what we do, let me promote myself more, because then at some point it just bombards. But also sharing news stories, also sharing, recipes for delicious mocktails for a party. Kind of creating a nice, well-rounded thing that it incorporates also other aspects of work related to what you do that they could incorporate into their life. I think that's a really important thing to do, so that you're not just like a whatever throwaway Facebook page that's an organization, that people are learning stuff from you, if not every day, at least every other day or something. So find another thing here. Find solutions to your concerns. There's no need to leap if a step will do. Is a big thing that we want to stress here as well. So all those concerns that we went over before, you're like, okay, so we don't have the bandwidth. How are we going to do that? Okay, so if you do some research, a social media management system will help you plan all your posts. You do it in one day, and then you have the rest of your week to just monitor.
Are there particular management systems that you?
We do, yeah, and I have them listed at the end too, so you could jot them down. But I use Hootsuite personally. Hootsuite, on one platform, you could post to Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I believe that LinkedIn, it might be is one as well, on another platform that you can use as well. You could do it all in one go. So that's kind of awesome, you know what I mean? It's great where you're like, good, I just did it all in one, and I could just step away, and now I could focus on the 15,000 other things that I have to do today, So finding those solutions, because there's an app for everything, right? Finding those solutions will help solve the concerns that you have. And that, a lot of it is just going online onto different tech websites or social media management blogs that kind of give you that will give you information on something new that's happening, and here's a way to incorporate it into the work that you're doing. So yeah, you don't have to just let go of everything and dive headfirst into trying to get this done and stuff. You could take those little baby steps so it's not overwhelming for not just your team, but also for the people that you're trying to reach out to. Is there questions? Okay. So yeah, just to kind of recap, that is, it's easier to work with people with have and are used to than trying to teach them something new. When you're trying to teach them something new, it could get overwhelming. So if you're working with them within the means, and also I find that it kind of helps you get creative. It's if you have to make dinner, but you only have this ingredient, and this ingredient, you're like, okay, how am I going to make this a delicious meal? So that's how you kind of take the same approach. It's this is all the time that I have this week. This is a technology that we have to use. Okay, how am I going to reach people with this? And in dissecting the data that you have, and in forming the campaigns that you want to push out to the community, then you can find those ways to connect with people. So text campaigns we went over. Yeah, and so, the technology is here just to support your goals. It's not here to drive them. You guys are already doing the hard work. The social is just helping you amplify the work that you're already doing. Just wanted to make sure that you remember that, so you don't think oh, I have to learn this whole new trade or whatever. So yeah, from the data collection and the research, you understand the platforms and the technology needed to empower your goal, and that's what's going to inform your strategy and your action plan. So step 3 is implementation and creative. So the question here is, okay, so how do I do this, right? So storytelling, I think, is a big thing that is really important for all initiatives. Any initiative out there, you need to be doing storytelling. It's not just about telling people about the work you do. It's about putting a human face on an issue and give a voice to those affected by it. It's bringing in real people and real stories to create a real connection. People share a story about a puppy because they feel connected to that puppy because they have a puppy, and I love puppies. So I'm going to share this story, and maybe I'll donate $5 because I love that puppy. You know, so when people are connected to how do I work? Okay. So when you connect to another human being, you're most likely to share that story, to connect to that story, to want to help somebody in that situation. I've donated money to people I have no idea who they are, but I felt compelled because of the story that I was hearing. I recently wrote an article about a project where a woman who I kind of know from periphery of like this kind of work that I do, who she went down to the Veterans Support House in Tijuana, which is veterans of the U.S. military who've been deported to Mexico. So she goes down there and she works with veterans and also other people that were deported from Mexico, and they wrote bedtime stories for the children that they've been separated from. They created these beautiful bedtime stories, explaining to their children what happened, why their parents aren't there with them, but trying to give them messages of hope or whatever. Those are becoming books. Like they were crowdfunding to make those into books and then maybe make videos so that it could serve as advocacy for this real issue. The videos and the photos and that the person shared on Facebook, it was like this woman talking about like missing her child, because whatever your disagreements are, maybe on the law or on immigration, at the core, if it's another human being missing their child, that's something you could connect to on a very real level. And so that compelled me to not only donate money, but also write an article about it, share in 2 different publications, because I wanted as many people to hear about this real thing that's happening that I felt very connected to. So it's replicating that. So if it's alcohol prevention for underage drinking, you know, if there's a person that who is willing to share their story, who's willing to tell about maybe a really horrible accident that they had or a really terrible experience that they had, or why it's important for them to abstain while they're underage, and having them explain why in simple language, and just it's a young person just connecting to other young people, that's going to drive your storytelling a lot harder than being like, data, like here's like the facts and figures and this and that, which is also part of your strategy, but those are the real connectors there when you're implementing and you're adding creative content.
I was going to add one of the key components of the behavioral health system in San Diego County is treatment.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe
Treatment, yeah.
sometimes more with the folks in treatment to build those stories. And then Angela, you just brought up, you want to share, there's an interesting story of this gentleman.
So we have a prescription drug abuse task force meeting on Friday, and I was recruiting a young person in recovery from heroin to be part of the panel. Mm-hmm. And I ran into this guy, Chris Bailey. Has anybody ever heard of Chris Bailey? He came back 2 weeks ago to San Diego after walking 7.5 months across the country, one step at a time. He had been in a program for a month and then a sober living and needed something more, and he walked from New York to LA. He's a twin, and his brother's a filmmaker. And so he's got a site, walkingwithchris.com, and they have video and Vimeo and Instagram and all this stuff around holding space for people that need, where we can help each other out.
Right. So it's like you're getting like a full strategy there. It's like you're giving daily updates, but you're also providing advocacy. You're also providing numbers and resources or things where people in the similar situation can take action to help themselves.
So
right.
would it be, question I have, just thinking ahead for you, Angela, is it appropriate, so Angela with the Prescription Drug Task Force, they have this big take back day every year, could she take some of Chris's materials and kind of take his story, but also then raise awareness to Take Back Day? Or how do you build that link without stealing their thunder,
right,
promoting them, but promoting yourself?
Well, if you make it a series of different stories revolving around this one event, the Take Back event or whatever, and if there's a hashtag for there, it becomes like a story involved in this. And and obviously you need permission and make sure that everyone's okay with having their story shared. But like creating a visual, like something where everything is kind of on brand, like the visuals are all similar. These are all similar stories or different stories that are under the same umbrella. It could just all form as part of a campaign that you brand under with a hashtag that you brand with the title of the event just in the copy that you write. Do you?
And so I can create a brand and a name, but I can't, I can link to his stuff, but I can't pull in his stuff because it's a different look, a different.
I mean, you can, but I mean, it just always looks nice. It's just like in terms of like quality visuals and branding, it's always nice if everything's uniform and to an aesthetic because you're creating a presence for yourself. This is a chance for you to promote the work that you're doing and at the core, this is really a chance to promote yourself. So creating that branding, even if it's just having your logo on the corner or something, Yes, ma'am.
That brings me to the question, and this is very unclear to me, of copyright.
Mm-hmm.
Where are the lines drawn? Like, let's say we're going to do here's a situation about all these puppies that were adopted for users. Okay, so there's this wonderful story in this magazine, and there's a personal story. How far can you go? Can you take that magazine story? Can you take clips from it?
So,
where does it start and end?
yeah, and that's like a lot of it just like kind of journalism ethics type thing, you know what I mean?
Right.
So if it's on Facebook and you hit the share button, they put it on Facebook because they want you to share it, right? So like if you hit the share button and you in the copy that you write, like this is a great story we found from like from Vanity Fair or whatever it is. And then you could give your insight into what you liked about it, what your organization agrees with, disagrees with, whatever. Making sure to tag everybody. So when you create the tag for, like you put the @ symbol, so then it highlights in blue. You know what I mean? Yeah. So tagging them so that it creates a connection there. So doing that, where you run into problems is if you use somebody's photo and you don't credit them, or if you don't ask for permission. If you copied and pasted something from an article and pasted it into a post and you didn't credit them, that's where you're going to run into issues.
So printed credits will.
Yeah, if you put a credit, because if it's a magazine, it's out there and they want people to share it. So if you even just like quote it and then attribute it to whoever it is, that you're fine. In terms of imagery and stuff, I use like Creative Commons. Like if you go to Flickr or even Wikipedia or something, and there's like Creative Commons that you could find. So just as you're searching and you hit like anything within Commons, it'll show you photos that you're allowed to use in your articles as long as you provide a credit, and you don't have to pay for them. So that's another option.
And it's pretty easy to do. The attribution doesn't have to be.
Oh yeah.
Especially if somebody has the best crispy quote you've ever seen about it, you just say, Chris said this about. Blah, 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 Chris told Time Magazine.
Right.
And you make a link to the Time Magazine article. You're driving
your more links,
Voice of
clicks.
San Diego is based on. They write articles about other people's articles. And if you just read a couple articles about Voice of San Diego, they'll say, the Union Tribune wrote a great article, and it says right there with the link about blah, blah, blah. And then they'll add some more content, but it allows them to quote and to crosstalk a little bit. But just look at how they do it. You don't necessarily have to create a bibliography at the bottom.
Oh no, nothing like that. Just
attribution can be as simple as said, told Time Magazine or told the Union Tribune, and then put a link on there. And if somebody at the UT or whatever publication calls with a beef, they're not going to because you're driving people to their site.
right, exactly.
You bring up an interesting point too, also in our system and with the media advocacies we're starting to use, like Rob said. We've seen like Voice of San Diego success with hyperlinks, so we're starting to put hyperlinks in our media, but it gives an opportunity. So say if North Inland Youth are doing a campaign on, with the Sheriff's Department on DUI awareness, somewhere North Inland Community Youth Program, there's a hyperlink to their Facebook page in the article too.
Oh yeah, hyperlinked like crazy for sure. Like because not only like especially like on Facebook or on Twitter, if you make sure to like tag. So if it's an article in Vanity Fair, it was or in Voice of San Diego, a great read in at Voice of San Diego. Here's like a little quote or something that we liked from it. written by this person or whatever. And so that creates, like, they'll retweet it. Like, I mean, I worked for Voice of San Diego for a couple years, and so people would share my story because they would tag me, or I would tag them, and you create that bond, you get followers. People are like, oh, I haven't heard about this, and because they got driven from your story or from the story, they follow you back, and things, it creates those connections.
Plus, it gives you the credibility because people say, these wacky fun police prevention coots, and they're like, oh, this was in Time Magazine.
Right.
And even if they don't follow them, they're like, oh, huh.
Yeah. Yeah, and hyperlinking to make sure that you're attributing, but also creating those connections, and then people are finding you. Go ahead,
It also gives you an opportunity to keep your article shorter. If the person wants to learn more, it's going to be right there at their fingertips.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And
So basically, you're saying if I put a comment in my post and then link to that one below, so I'm really just saying this, and this is where I got it.
This is where I got it, read more, and then I think it's important, right, and I think it's important as an initiative and as the work you're doing is to provide in the content that you write for that post your response. So this is why we're sharing it, or this is what we agree with, this is what we're doing in response to this, or what we're doing related to this. It's important that you are not just sharing the story, but like providing insight and your thoughts on what you're sharing there.
So Angela could share his site.
Absolutely.
Or his post,
Analysis about
why it's
and
important.
how it links to our work.
I think because that's the connection that you want to create there, and why it's something that you're sharing and explaining to people.
I just stepped out, so I'm sorry if you had already answered this, but in terms of recognition, not violating copyright, in the example of where you're cutting and pasting something from an online magazine, let's say, is it sufficient just to reference the download site, like where you got it from, this magazine, or were you saying even to the extent that you might want to figure out who took the photograph that shows up as a thumbnail and credit that individual in the post or something? Or?
No, not necessarily, because if, say, in a Facebook post, like when they go to that just auto-populates the image, and the journalist or the publication, they'll have credited the photo. You're really just saying, like, this is an article from this publication. If you want to tag the person that wrote it, you can. I think that's a good opportunity for that person, because if they wrote about something related to your initiative, they're going to be interested in your initiative, hopefully. So you tag them, they find that you shared it, they find your page, they like your page, and then maybe they'll share their page. And you could even connect with them, encourage them to share your page. So you're attributing because of, it's just proper ethics to attribute what you're doing, but also more in terms of how it benefits you guys. You're connecting to a thought leader. You're connecting to a thought leader, and a thought leader is someone that pushes, that is working on a higher level or sharing the stories that can affect the work that you do. That's an opportunity there to connect with somebody. A big thing is just in terms of your posts, this happens a lot where people get real insider baseball, they get real esoteric with their language, keeping it simple, because I know one of the funniest things that I thought, you go to school, you're in college, whatever, and you used to want to show off all your $10 words that you learned or whatever, and then you become a writer or a journalist or a social media person, they're like, yeah, no, you have to write for a 7th grader to understand. Not even that, go 4th grade. Go just write it as simple as possible, make sure you're clear, make sure that nobody could doubt in any way what you're saying, or everyone understands. You want everybody to be able to understand, especially in the work that you're doing, because you're doing work that affects people of all walks of life. You're all walks of life, all backgrounds of education. So the simpler the language, the better. And that doesn't mean it has to be whatever. You don't have to talk like a caveman. It's just speaking to a person. Yeah, you're just speaking to a person as you speak to them in a conversation.
Don't utilize when you can use.
Exactly. Don't utilize. Oh my gosh, my editor at San Diego City Beat, if one of us used utilize, he would stomp over to our desk and be like, why are you you're not allowed to use that word. He had a sign that said utilize with the big line circle thing out of it.
That's prevent. I've had people from the county put utilize, redline use and put utilize.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you kidding me? And
Yeah.
then the other ones, while we're on use, youths.
Yeah.
I'm writing a story about students at a high school, and they redline students and put youths. And I'm like, youths are, students define who they are. You already said they're at Sarah High. Youths means people up to 25 years old. They're not.
Right, and also like way to make yourself, yeah, I'm a youth, like those youths, like way to just like not connect it.
It's like, no, take it
Like,
out.
does it really?
Yeah, youths guys, youths.
And yet we get that, we have our copy editors telling us to do that.
Right.
That's one of the problems when we deal with the county, we write for media and they talk good English and they write in English, but they'll write a 68-word sentence and think that's okay. And you say, no, you break it up.
Yeah.
It's more than one line or more than 2 lines on the page and put a period. Start
Yeah,
the sentence.
and that's where you kind of have to come in real like firm, like, hey, no, no. So like we run into that here at the Jacob Center a lot because we're talking redevelopment, we're talking economic development, and so that's like some really like big stuff where it's like I don't like personally, like as a college educated woman who works very hard and reads and whatever, I don't like to feel dumb reading something. I don't like to feel like I don't understand what this means, so maybe I'm not smart. You know, and that's kind of like what ends up inevitably happening, where you just think like, oh, I don't understand that word, and I'm gonna Google it real quick and pretend I always knew it. So keeping that language simple, it helps people. You're not gonna alienate anybody, and you don't want to alienate anybody, especially in the type of work you're doing, because as I said, you're connecting with people of all walks of life, of all levels of education, of all levels of income. You know.
What really drives me crazy, I don't know, but just about everything. But what really is like somebody will type this thing and then it has the more part on the Facebook, and you open it up and it's like this 9-page.
Yeah,
thing.
it is absolutely poor form. It's what we call we internet nerds call like TLDR. It's like TL semicolon DR. Too long, didn't read. No one's gonna read that. No one's gonna read it. You gotta give me the information in 3 sentences or less. I never want to have to click the read more section, and then direct me to where I can find more information. Pull me in. I'm interested. I will click and I will read on the other page.
That's an interesting point. I think people don't know it's like that.
Yeah, they don't think, but who is gonna if I see, I click the read more and it's just like a long manifesto we're in, I'm just like, I'm backing out of this joint. I'm gonna go look at a cat video.
With emails, send it out to you guys.
Yeah. Yeah, keep it real simple. Direct people to where they can learn more information. I think that's a good thing across the board, even on your websites and stuff. Just keeping it simple and then sending them to the resource where they can find information. So yeah, a big thing is, get creative, have fun, but understand. Don't focus on going viral, because going viral is this weird magical sauce that no one knows the real recipe to. Because you never know what's going to happen. You never know what's going to be popular, right? Nobody does. No.
It will if it does.
If it does, it does, and you're just like, cool. Totally meant for that to happen. Like you just play it real cool. Like when it's because if you focus on that, then you're not focusing on the important part, right? The important part is that you're getting the information out about the work that you do, and that you're sharing important stories of people affected by the work that you do. And that you're sharing facts and figures and information that's beneficial and resources to those that you want to help.
Yeah, you can see examples of that too, where someone has gone viral and then they try to repeat it, and it's
yeah, and it's just like it's despo. It's super desperate. Well, like an example is like the ice bucket challenge, right? People were like freaking. Everyone did the ice bucket challenge. I watched Donatella Versace do the ice bucket challenge, and I was like, this is hilarious or whatever. But the actual money that it raised was minimal. It was a minimal amount of money, and the whole point was to raise money for ALS. So sometimes it's like, okay, you went viral and there's awareness now, but it didn't really necessarily create any real world change. So I think it's better to work. I don't know. I feel it's more important to focus on the messaging and the full strategy and creating that hub of information that's going to benefit the people you want to reach out to, rather than worrying about is it going to get 5,000 hits or is it going to get all these clicks? If it does, fantastic. That's great. That's an added bonus for you guys. See if you could work that into a raise, But if it's your main goal, then you're gonna be really disappointed because most of the time nothing's gonna go viral. And sometimes it's really surprising, like you're saying, it's really surprising. I shared one day, it was just here, like I shared a story that was in the UT that was about the possibility of a regional park. And so it was like, this is a story about a regional park that may open here in the Diamond neighborhoods. We want to know, and I just asked people, like, would you use a regional park? What would you use it for if it's something that will really benefit your day-to-day life? And sometimes I put those calls to action and I get crickets. And then and that day, for some reason, it was just people were like going crazy about this, the possibility of a regional park. So it's like, and I was like, this is great. Look at me being a social media manager. Yeah, so it's important just to focus on the strategy and the content that you're putting out there more so than worrying about the elusive viral. Evaluation and evolution. So how do you know it's working? You know, so identifying what's working and what's not working, and then evolving. That's the big thing here. So this is where kind of you start. You put together your strategy. So you did all your research. You took that into account and you created an action plan and a strategy for all your digital platforms and your social media platforms. You start implementing it. Oh, here it is. Like here's all the posts. Here's everything that I'm doing. All these campaigns that I'm working. And now you just kind of sit back and see, like, all right, is it going to work? Or did I just waste my time? So the thing here you have to do is constantly measure. This is never ending. There's never like, oh, we're done. We figured out the recipe and we got it and that works. No, you're constantly measuring and you're constantly monitoring both what's working online and in the field. What's the thing that's like triggering? So if this is what the post says, did people show up in the field? If they didn't, why didn't they show up? Asking, figuring it out. If there's continuing to do the research and the data collecting. Okay, so if they didn't show up for this event, if we only got 10 people, ask those 10 people why they showed up. What got them to not only click on the social media post, but also get in their car and show up. And then when you can understand why they did that, then sometimes it's something like, oh, childcare, like I didn't have a babysitter. But if you say like, no, you could have brought your kids, like that might increase your numbers by 10, you know what I mean? It's just understanding why people weren't showing up, understanding the measuring and the monitoring and then saying, okay, so this is what happened last time. Let's restructure and make sure that for the next one, we maybe get it a little bit closer to right, you know? There's no formula for success. There's no one formula. But if you re-strategize and shift your action plan as you see the results, you can see what's working over what is working, what's not working. And sometimes it's funny with like Facebook ads, they give you the option to choose as many as like 5 images to go with your ad. So you could have the same ad running with 5 different images. Some people, one photo, for some reason or another, people do not respond to the photo, and that ad will get 3 clicks or whatever. Another photo will get 15,000. So you're like, well, that photo is useless. I'm going to just remove that photo and take that out of the equation, and that there's more power to the one that is working. So it's like that re-strategizing of like, okay, what's working? I'm monitoring. So this post didn't do as well. Let's maybe rethink about that sort of story that we're telling or that sort of post. Oh, but a video is working really well. People are sharing that video. Okay, let's try to incorporate more videos into our strategy. So it's doing that on a constant level. Go ahead.
Are you talking about a Facebook paid advertisement or just the Facebook ads photos in your post? Wasn't quite clear there.
Okay, so there's ads and there's boosts, right? So a boost is when you see like just your post that you have, whatever, and it gives you the option to boost. And so with boosting, you're able to make sure it gets more impressions. It reaches more news feeds, that more people are able to see it. An ad is specifically like an ad like on a billboard, where it's going to pop up in the news feed, it's going to pop up on the sidebar, and it's going to pop up on their mobile. And you'd be surprised. I think people think like, oh, we don't have a budget, we can't do this. A $5 boost on a post, like $5, over the course of 5 days will give you instead of getting 20 impressions, it'll give you 15,000. Like, it's a huge, like $5 goes such a long way. And if you set aside money in your budget for social media, like whatever it is that you can do, you could work with it. Like if you're fortunate, you have a organization, bless you, that they're like, oh yeah, here's $1,000, use $1,000, here's $10,000. Like you're like, whoa, cool. Some people have $100. You know, like people have $100 to use for the whole month. Yeah, there's been here like like here at the Jacob Center for like 1 month I spent $800 and I was like, oh crap, I spent $800. And then for the next month I was like, I have $35 to spend, so I had to work with that $35. You know, just depending on like what I have approval for, because like everybody knows you got to get approval from like 15 people before you can carry out something sometimes. So yeah. It doesn't have to be a huge amount, but any amount that you could put into that will work. And so, and that will also help with all the other things, because especially with Facebook, they're trying to make some money because Zuckerberg doesn't have enough money apparently. So they're really encouraging you to reach more people, and you want to. So adding that budget, like you were saying, it's like when it goes stale, when people aren't adding you anymore, or people aren't responding anymore, what do? $10. Throw $10 at it. It's ridiculous, but yeah.
I have a question. What are your thoughts in regards to memes? Because I know memes are always trending online,
Yeah.
Facebook, Instagram, and I see it on my own personal page, but I think for a professional page, I don't know, I just want to know what your thoughts are, because I've seen apps that you can download for free, or like 99 cents, which is like small amounts, that you could create your own meme. So like you could make one that's centralized around binge underage drinking initiative, or that you could create that will hopefully gain momentum because it's memes and someone sees it, they want to like it, right?
Right, and usually a meme is funny. It's like it's funny, shareable, whatever.
What are your thoughts, like professionally, to use that?
I think it's like it depends on who you like, what your organization is, and if you're willing to do that. You know, some people with certain organizations, like they're way into it. They'll do it, and it works for them, and it kind of becomes part of their strategy. Obviously, it helps with the connecting with youth and not seeming super stuffy. I think there is also a line to cross before you start sounding like the guy at the bar that's like, hey kids, like we're on fleek now and whatever, and you're like, you don't want to be that guy, because I think people, like especially like if you work with youth outreach, they're just like, who's this lame-o, you know what I mean? I don't know how many times like I'll try to be cool with like my nieces or something, and they're just like, you're old, you're in your 30s, you're old, you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm like, damn it, like you guys heard of this rapper or something? They're like, go away. So they literally say go away. So when you're a professional initiative or organization, I don't think there's anything wrong with doing it, but I think you just want to skirt the line of not coming off as like you're, yeah, you know what I mean?
I haven't seen it on professional page, that's why we don't, but
yeah, and I think there's ways to
likes, but I don't know if it's
well, there's the same idea where it's like if you create an image, like a high quality image that is shareable and it's kind of interesting, then you could do that without being like, it's like, I don't know, some joke. But then if there's like something that is like trending, always like paying attention to those trending topics. If something is trending that relates in any way to your initiative, like get on it, ride that train, you know what I mean? So if you were an organization that works on gun control, and then with the Paris attacks that happened, there's an opportunity there to kind of share some of the information that you're working on, because it's something that's trending in the national and international zeitgeist and discourse. So yeah, but memes are, I don't know, it's like, it's a line to skirt. You could do it, and then you can see if it works, and if it doesn't, you just don't do it anymore.
Probably just professional judgment, because a meme in our work could be used then by, you be careful, because it could be used the other way to promote something versus.
Yeah.
I know, that's why I stray away, but I just.
I know. Well, also I'll sometimes like ask, it's such a dweeby thing, but like I'll again ask my nieces about stuff that I'm working on, because just in case there's some sort of lingo that I'm not aware of. And like, like an example, I think like somebody, like when, like with Bill Cosby, like all these things that were happening with Bill Cosby, and for some genius reason, his like marketing team decided to create a meme generator where you take a picture of Bill Cosby and you could put in a funny thing in there. Like, well, guess what people did?
Yeah.
Guess what sort of messaging they put into that meme? So it was like, that backfired real bad, you know what I mean? So just being conscious of like how you're, like, just because you want to like connect to the youth doesn't mean like, you got to keep in mind like who we are, what is our messaging, do we want people to skew that message or mess with that messaging? But yeah, you can try it out. Try it out. I don't see why not.
Quick question on the ads or the boost.
Uh-huh.
Because I know you're thinking of that as kind of a digital billboard. Can that be set to be in a specific geographical area?
Yes.
Or within a zip code?
You could do
We're
zip
all within
codes.
San Diego County, but
Mhm.
there's different prevention providers in each region.
Oh,
They set it
absolutely.
So it only shows that image or that messaging within their region.
Yeah, you target, you do precise targeting. You could do targeting based on gender, based on age group, based on location. So when we have an event here, like a concert, that we were like, well, people might drive down from LA. Why not? So we set the ad that we put for that concert and set it all of Southern California, just in case somebody in Corona feels like driving to the Jacobs Center to catch like a gospel show or something, whatever. Yeah, like there's ways to set that because, and also with the work that you're doing, there's no reason why you don't want to be as big as possible, because while you are connecting with San Diego County and that's your main area of focus, you guys are national thought leaders in the work that you're doing. You're trying to create a bigger awareness across everywhere, and joining the discussion, which we'll cover later. So yeah, those are things that you could use for sure.
I've noticed that sometimes businesses and companies post stuff on their website,
Mhm.
on their Facebook website, and sometimes it may not have anything to do with their business. It's just like a light joke or a meme or something like that.
Yeah, like you're saying,
Yeah,
Mhm.
and is that something that's advised with the type of social media that we do? I'm also reminded of a quote, and I can't remember the person who said it, but it's something like, with regard to even if you're managing a business, provide for the people and people will provide for you, something like that.
Well, there's a difference between a business and an initiative, right? So if you're a pizza parlor, you're not really maybe worried too much about seeming professional or providing information as you are if you're an organization helping HIV victims, so it's just kind of like realizing what your messaging is. Like if you want to incorporate humor and kind of lightheartedness, you can do it, and there's a way to do it professionally. It's just having being careful to not cross a certain boundary, because you want, first and foremost, you want to help people, right? So.
We got about 5 minutes.
Okay, and I want to make sure I give everyone a chance to. Okay, do you want to?
Just thoughts about using youth to call adults to action, because that's a lot what our youth groups are. They're pitching to adult audiences.
Right, and youth. I mean, you use them to kind of create those ambassadorships within their
story with an adult following, saying this is what's important to the kids in my neighborhood. Kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's just part of the storytelling process of connecting, and that's going to connect with people of all age groups. Like if it's either a young person at the helm, obviously there's going to be language and certain things used because they're connected more to that age group, so they might connect with others more likely than with an adult maybe. But I mean, it's open to anybody.
So storytelling.
It's just really, storytelling is what bridges those gaps. Basically with evaluating and evolution, you don't want to waste your time. If something is working, great. Keep it going. Make notes of why it's working. What are the things that's working about it? If people are, I did a similar post without a call to action. The call to action has more responses. Keep doing calls to action. Things like that. Like keep in mind what's working, what's not working, so you don't waste your time, so that you could reallocate your efforts and expand on the parts of your strategy that are working. Don't get too comfortable. As they say in marriage, complacency is the killer or whatever. Don't get too comfortable. Like, just because something's working doesn't mean you should just, okay, we're done forever. Yay. Well, yeah, we're just going to do the same thing every single night. You know what I mean? No, you want to switch things up and refresh a campaign or a project. Try something different. So changing the story. Okay, so for 1 month, we're going to do all storytelling on this topic involving these type of people. Next month, try a different topic, try different people, try a different strategy and whatever. Just continually changing so that it doesn't get stale, so people don't get bored with the page that you're running. And then, so connecting was the big one too at the end. So at the end, you want to make sure you're connecting. How can you spread the word? So finding the brand ambassadors means finding the people who are passionate about your initiative and will help spread the mission online and in the field. So you have people that volunteer, you have people that are already connecting with you and organizing, or like maybe if there's somebody that you find that's commenting quite a bit, like you see them constantly commenting, send them a private message and be like, hey, we notice that you're commenting a lot, that you're really passionate about this issue, that you share our posts a lot. We'd love it if you can be an ambassador for the work that we do. And if that means maybe they put together a volunteer group that goes out and does, door-to-door knocking for, policy, like if there's a vote. If that means putting together a group for, doing a pop-up event that helps with your initiative. Identifying those people and being like, hey, you're clearly somebody that's into this. We'd like to have you on board in some way. Those are the people that are gonna, they're gonna pound the pavements for you. They're gonna, not only online, but on the ground. And they're gonna tell their friends and stuff, so. And then identifying the thought leader. These are the higher level people. Like at one point, somebody on Obama's staff tweeted something, and it was somehow related to creative placemaking, which is a big part of what we do. So I responded like, oh, this is something we do, and like, here's our website, check it out. They shared that tweet. It was just like, yay, there's a thought leader, and then we followed each other, and that was great, you know what I mean? So it's like, all right, these are the people I'm gonna follow. I'm gonna monitor what they're doing, I'm gonna check the news feed, what they're doing on Twitter, especially on Twitter for thought leaders. I'm gonna monitor what they're writing, and if anything relates to something that you do as your initiative, connect with them, message them, like respond to something they do. Sometimes they respond, sometimes they don't. But if they do, that's like a big win for you. They responded, they might have shared. I find that when I respond to somebody and they responded back, immediately it's like, oh, I have 5 new followers because somebody read their response and they thought it was funny or interesting or whatever. So they go to our page, they hit the follow button. That's gonna help boost your numbers and boost awareness of your mission. Also, if you have a campaign that you're working on and that you want people to find out and participate in, sending a message, like either tagging them on Twitter or sending a personal message and letting them know, this is a campaign we're working on. We'd love it if you shared it with your followers, especially if they have like 50,000 followers. You could even go so far, and I've done this in other films, like, here, I even wrote out the tweet for you. Copy and paste it. All you have to do is copy and paste it. It's providing the trigger. So that's the next point, create the trigger. Provide the people with the resources needed to act both online and in real life. So like I was saying, if you're finding that a lot of people respond into a post for a meeting that you're having, but only whatever amount showed up, finding out why, and then factoring that into creating the trigger. So if it's they don't have a sitter, okay, so what can we do to help fix that? All right, there's not transportation available to them. Provide information for every bus route from every freaking location that they have. Where do you live? Here's a bus route. Here's how you can get there. Anything you could do. Oh, it's dinner time. We're gonna have snacks. Perfect. Look, we got snacks here for you. There's KFC, whatever it is you want to share. Whatever it is that you can create the trigger. Sending the text message to remind them, today is an important day to vote. Make sure to get out and make sure to get your polling station. Here's these polling stations in your neighborhood, or click this link to find the polling station in San Diego County nearest you. Providing that trigger, because if they can't have an excuse that they didn't do it if you gave them everything available to them. You can if you just copy and paste it, that's all you have to do. It takes them 3 seconds if they copy and paste it, And then join the conversation. This is so important when it comes to building up your followership and connecting with people that can be brand ambassadors as well as thought leaders. So we go to like the Rise Urban breakfasts every month or so. I don't know if anybody else goes, but there it's like they have like the running like tweet, like it's all like running in real time, like what people are tweeting about the event. And so they're like, we're live tweeting, we're responding to somebody else, like we're joining the conversation there in the moment at the event. And then that helps us connect with people. We always get followers right after that. We have huge impressions after that.
What's the group called?
Like Rise San Diego, RISE. Yeah, and they hold a monthly breakfast that where they bring in 3 experts on a certain topic. So they had like the Charter Stadium and 3 people that could provide insight on the stadium possibilities here or whatever. Workforce development, anything along those lines. And so like just, you know, when you're sitting down, and I know sometimes it feels like there's so many things that you're expecting me to do, how am I going to do this? It's just finding the moments of like, okay, I'm going to scroll through the newsfeed on Twitter and just kind of read what's going on, and then something catches your eye, great. I'm going to retweet that and add a message. Oh, great article at this writer, at this writer. And they might respond, thanks, or like the whatever it is. It just helps build up that awareness and impression. So always join the conversation. That's going to help you connect with more people. This is also, like, I know a big thing was like gaining followers is really hard, especially when you're starting out. You don't have a Facebook page at all, and you start it, so you're at 0. So like you start out, you ask everyone in your network, everyone to add the page, to follow, whatever. After you get the 100 minimum needed to do ads, then you start building those ads. And with the ads, you could decide who you want to connect to. So when I started here, I think the Jacob Center had maybe like 800 or so followers or whatever on Facebook. I did some, like, a lot of the conversation, joining in the conversation, a lot of like just identifying people and messaging and liking and whatever and sharing their posts, and so they share mine, and doing a lot of that outreach. And then I put together a few ads to, so one specifically for promoting us as an arts and culture venue. Come to the Jacob Center. We have a long lineup of concerts and theater and stuff. So I've put that throughout a huge region of the country. So I think we're at over 4,000 followers now, and that was just a few months ago. Yeah, so it just kind of, it's a combination of like throwing some money that you can behind it, but also just constantly like talking to people. Networking, social networking. So yeah. And here are some resources for you guys. For insights and analytics, Google, Twitter, Facebook, those are all totally valid. And I mean, like I said, keep it simple. There's other apps and other places where you could get analytics or even like infographics created for you based on like your impressions and stuff and your data. But these do it as well. So why mess with, like, it just is simple, just to keep it simple, Hootsuite, Buffer, TweetDeck, Sprout Social, those are social media management. We use Hootsuite. That's the one where I was telling you guys where you can kind of post to all of your social media platforms in one go. You could just get it all done. And there's tutorials that you could do online on YouTube where they'll kind of walk you through it. Basecamp and Trello are good for project management. That's like, so you put together a strategy, right? So here's a strategy. Here are our goals for the month of November. You can, using Basecamp or Trello, you can create those goals and like move them along. On like on Trello, it's like almost like a conveyor belt. So it's like, here are the 15 things that we need to make sure get done this week. And then as it's moving down, like, okay, we posted it. All right, check, and then you need to check and monitor its impressions, move it on over. So it's just something to keep you kind of, making sure you're doing all the steps necessary to stay on goal. Basecamp does the same thing where you have tasks, and you just switch off your tasks. Just, who doesn't like a checklist? I love a checklist. A checklist keeps me on point and makes sure I'm getting everything done. Hashtagify Me is what I use to research powerful hashtags. So if I want to know if a hashtag that I'm creating, an original hashtag that I want to create for a campaign has already been in use, I use that to see if it has and who's using it and if there are any thought leaders in there. Because then, like if somebody's like creates a hashtag and then it like turns out it's also a hashtag used by this horrible group in Alabama or wherever, I don't know. Like, you just were like, oh gosh, I wish I would have known that. So I researched that, but also what I love about Hashtagify Me, it'll tell you, like, you put in a keyword. Okay, so I want to see if the hashtag community organizing, where is that? It'll give you a percentage of how powerful it is, how many people are using it, how powerful it is on social media, and then it'll give you related tags. If people that use this also use these tags. So then you could consider, as you're writing a tweet, for example. So here's my original hashtag that I created, but I know hashtag community organizing, I know hashtag music, hashtag culture are also, they're more generic, but they're very powerful and they get a lot of people visiting them. So if you create a tweet and has like 3 hashtags, one pertaining to your specific campaign paired with ones that are popular overall on social media, you just get more people to view your posts that way. So like so it's like saying like, oh, telling people Diamond Neighborhoods in San Diego. So it's like the Diamond Neighborhoods, this is very specific. Oh, it's in San Diego. Lots of people research San Diego, and now they're going to find out about the Diamond Neighborhoods because they researched San Diego. So that's one. Canva is my favorite app. It's for creating high-level designs with minimal experience or effort. That's what I built this on because I don't have a PowerPoint on my computer. I keep meaning to get that. But it's like I wanted to look cool. I wanted to look nice. I wanted to look like we hired like a badass designer from New York that came in and designed all our beautiful photos like that have like all this imagery and stuff like that. I use Canva to do it. There's like, it's a templates that are there. It puts all the, like, it just looks, it makes everything look good. I do like birthday invitations. I do everything on that. I built my personal business cards for like my freelancing and stuff. I build all those in Canva because it just gives you the templates that look really great. And then as you get to know it better, you could kind of mess with it and, add your logo and stuff like that so that you could build something that is branded to your work, but also is a really high level in terms of design. And stay informed. Last thing to remember is there's always something new coming out. There's always something happening that's in tech because it moves, and so keep up to date with like Gizmodo, TechCrunch, Wired, CNET, just reading up on like what's new, what's happening in technology, what's happening in social media. Once you're on their site, you could do the search social media and it'll give you like new things that are happening or new apps that are coming out. And then you could decide if that works for you. Like, oh, I could see it. Like, I wonder if that could work for us. As an example, earlier this year, a huge thing that came out was Periscope and Meerkat. Have you heard it? I'm sure maybe you guys heard of it. But live streaming was always a huge problem for us. We wanted to live stream events or town halls or anything that we're having here. We wanted to be able to stream it, but to live stream costs thousands of dollars. Thousands of dollars. There's now apps so you do it for free. Absolutely free. So we're like, Periscope. We have to incorporate that into our strategy now because there's this new app and like we're constantly trying to find ways to tell people to come to our events. So if they can't come, but we want them to live stream, we want them to still get the information. We're going to live stream it now for $0. So we live streamed events here so people could watch online, and that was really awesome. We were really excited to do that, and we found a lot of people following us.
Does that make an archive too for a video?
It saves to your phone because you have to do it through your phone or an iPad or whatever Android that you have. You just download the app and you just set up your phone and it just creates a stream.
And some of you may know Periscope recently from the lady who was live streaming driving drunk.
Yeah.
Yep. That gave them so much publicity, just Periscope.
Yeah.
But I mean, sometimes it also could be used in.
Well, you use it you could use something like that in a creative way. So like a thing I've been trying to work on in terms of like storytelling thing using Periscope is like, okay, so a lot of people for this neighborhood, there's a lot of stereotypes. There's a lot of negativity out there about this neighborhood. People are afraid to walk around this neighborhood. I walk up the street to get my nails done, and I walk back and whatever. But people are like, why would you walk into that neighborhood? That's so dangerous. So I realized that there's that perception there. So I'm working on having people do live streaming of just their day-to-day in their neighborhood. I'm just walking up the street. This is the things that I see. These are the people I'm encountering, and this is like the issues that are happening. Yes, the sidewalk is messed up. That's something we would like to bring up. And so if you're like live streaming those personal stories of different people in the community, showing you what their day-to-day life is, then it kind of helps start to dispel those perceptions perhaps that people have of this community. So finding ways to like not only just like here's an event with information that we want to show, but then also think about it in a creative way. You know, if you shared that story of that woman drunk driving, be like, this is why this is a terrible idea, guys. Don't do this, you know? So yeah. Yeah, it's terrible. I mean, I don't know. So yeah, stay informed and then making sure to keep up to date with stuff and then seeing if it works for you. And if it doesn't, it doesn't, and that's okay, you know? Just if you can add it to your strategy, that's fantastic. So that's it for me.
All right,
Unless,
listen, thank you so much, Alice.
Yeah, thank you.